What if the Emperor's Great Crusade wasn't a glorious conquest, but a frantic, desperate cover-up? What if the enemies the Imperium fought weren't just aliens and rebels, but concepts and truths so dangerous that to even know their names was to invite extinction? Now, we don't just look at the mysteries of the 41st millennium. We descend. We will dive past the Inquisition's black bars and into the warp's whispers, past the redacted files and into the silent screams. Each layer of this iceberg takes us deeper into the forbidden history of the Imperium of Man, revealing a truth far darker than the endless war it portrays. Want the wildest gaming secrets? Hit subscribe, because this is just the beginning. We will explore secrets that, if ever revealed, would shatter the very foundations of the galaxy. By the time we scrape the bottom, you'll question everything you thought you knew about the Imperium, and you'll understand that in the grim darkness of the far future, the greatest threat isn't the enemy at the gates. It's the truth hidden under your feet. We begin with a mystery every student of the Great Crusade knows, yet none can explain. The two lost Primarchs. The 2nd and 11th sons of the Emperor of Mankind, erased from every Imperial record. But it's not just that they're missing, it's the chilling precision with which they were removed. Official Crusade manifests, records of the mightiest military force ever assembled, literally jump from Legion 10, the Iron Hands, to Legion 12, the World Eaters. This wasn't a simple clerical error or the fog of war. It was a professional, systematic deletion of history itself. Every statue was torn down, every tapestry burned, every mention struck from the record with surgical spite. By the way, if you want to deep dive, I have a video about it. Check it out. What crime could warrant such an absolute erasure? The Primarchs themselves? Those who remembered their brothers spoke only in hushed tones and veiled warnings. Rabute Gilliman, the master of logistics and order, once admitted the brothers were erased for cause, a chillingly bureaucratic phrase for what must have been an unimaginable failure. The War Master Horus, before his own fall, claimed they flunked Dad's secret pop quiz. A jest, perhaps, but one that hints at a test of loyalty or purity that they catastrophically failed. The most telling clue comes from the designated executioners of the Emperor, the Space Wolves. The Rout were given a standing kill order against any legion showing the same symptoms as the Lost Ones. This implies their failure wasn't a simple betrayal, but a flaw, a contagion of ideology or biology so profound that its mere presence in another legion warranted immediate, unhesitating annihilation. After the deed was done, the Emperor, in an act of terrible finality, wiped the memory of almost all witnesses. Only his Praetorian Guard, the silent Custodes, were left to remember the full, unvarnished truth of why two of the Emperor's own sons had to be not just defeated, but entirely forgotten. If the Lost Primarchs blew your mind, smash like, because the next conspiracy goes even deeper. Just below the surface, we encounter a war so devastating it was almost successful in being completely forgotten. The Rangand Xenocides. These were a series of campaigns scrubbed so hard from history that even the dates are a tangled mess of contradictions. It was a conflict that, until the Horus Heresy, was the bloodiest in the Imperium's history, a war for survival that nearly halted the Great Crusade in its tracks. The question isn't just what happened, but what was Rangda? The few surviving blurred images speak of towering, monstrous Xenos, sometimes described as vulpine or fox-like, possessing a terrifying intellect. Their technology was a match for, and in some cases, superior to the peak of the Imperium's power. Their elite warriors, protected by personal energy shields, were the equal of a space marine, and they were led by war masters wielding blades coated in neurotoxins capable of overwhelming Astartes' physiology. The scale of the conflict was apocalyptic. It took the combined might of at least 9 legions, including the Dark Angels, Space Wolves, and Death Guard, over 2 decades to finally achieve victory. The cost was catastrophic. The Dark Angels alone lost a staggering 50,000 legionaries, a blow so severe they lost their status as the largest legion. Entire expeditionary fleets were annihilated. Dozens of Titan legions were lost, and some theories even connect the destruction of one of the lost legions to this very war. Faced with this existential threat, the Emperor unleashed weapons and protocols that were themselves horrifying, and in the aftermath, issued an extinction-level command. Entire sectors were locked down, worlds tainted by the Rangda were abandoned, and the veterans were either sworn to absolute silence or eliminated, their memories wiped clean to ensure the horror of the Rangand Xenocides would never fully come to light. Deeper now, we drift into a region of space so feared it is a synonym for cosmic dread, the Ghoul Stars. And here we find the mystery of the Pale Wasting. Between the 36th and 38th millennia, a chilling silence fell over entire subsectors in this remote and blighted region of the galaxy. Official Imperial records, sparse as they are, label the event a famine or a series of plagues. But the truth is far more unsettling. Scout fleets and exploratory vessels that braved the journey found dead worlds. Not worlds ravaged by war, but planets scoured clean, stripped down to the bedrock with no signs of orbital bombardment or conventional weapons fire. The populations, numbering in the billions, had simply vanished. In the void between these dead planets, they found drifting debris, the remains of ships, stations, and orbital plates. Etched into this debris, tech priests discovered something that defied all logic: bone-white tablets covered in a form of High Gothic. This was not the common tongue of the 36th millennium. It was an archaic, perfect form of the language, older than the Imperium itself. The grammar was flawless, a product of a master linguist, yet the meaning was utterly untranslatable. The sentences were coherent, but conveyed no logical information, as if reality itself was being contradicted. Before their worlds went silent, astropaths in the region reported shared, nightmarish dreams. They spoke of white mouths in the dark, and a hunger that did not consume flesh but existence itself. These psychers either went mad or their minds simply ceased to function. What could cause such a thing? Theories are few and sanity-threatening. Some whisper of the Light Eater, a phenomenon local to the Ghoul Stars. Others fear it was a xenospecies that operates on principles beyond physical conflict, or something far, far older. The Adeptus Mechanicus, in its infinite and unnerving wisdom, has quietly classified the entire phenomenon. The recovered tablets are now secretly recycled, their impossible language locked away inside the hulls of warships. A silent, unknowable madness, reinforcing the very fleets that pretend to bring order to the galaxy. Comment which Warhammer conspiracy you think is real. And if you're still watching, you're officially part of the 30% who can handle the truth. Here, in the cold pressure of the Midnight Zone, sanity begins to fray. This is the home of the Terminus Decree. Kept on Titan, the fortress monastery of the Grey Knights, this ultimate secret is contained not in a stasis vault, but a simple wooden box. The box is sealed with a golden sigil, and only one soul in the entire galaxy is permitted to open it: the acting Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights. It is humanity's absolute last resort, a final, desperate gambit to be used only when all other hope is lost. For centuries, its contents were the subject of wild speculation. Some believed it was a command to awaken the Dragon of Mars. Later, we will talk about this dragon. Perhaps a weapon that could purge the warp of the Chaos Gods entirely. The truth, recently revealed, is far more shocking and paradoxical. The Terminus Decree is the Emperor's final order concerning himself. It commands the Grey Knights that the Emperor of mankind must never be allowed to leave the Golden Throne. Whether he is reborn, returns to life, or ascends into a true warp entity, their ultimate duty is to stop him and return him to his agonizing duty upon the throne. The decree offers no guidance on how they are to accomplish this impossible task, which would likely involve battling through the Emperor's own custodian guards. This raises a terrifying question: why? Why would the Emperor, and his closest confidant Malkador the Sigillite who enacted the decree, fear his own return? The answer may lie in what the Emperor could become. During his final battle with Horus, the Emperor nearly embraced the power of the warp to become a new chaos power, the Dark King, a being of pure annihilation. The Terminus Decree is a failsafe against his own nature, a quarantine for a god. And the strangest part? A detail that preceded the recent revelation remains. For 10,000 years, it has been rumored that the text on the parchment rewrites itself. Each new Grand Master reports that the words on the scroll change after he first reads them. What the decree describes isn't just a plan, it's a living prophecy, a countdown to a moment when the Grey Knights might have to save humanity from its own savior. If your sanity is still intact after that descent, and you feel the thirst for more forbidden knowledge, then hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell so you don't miss it. Share this with a friend who thinks the Emperor protects, because they need to know what he's protecting us from. And meet me in the comments. I need to know which of these mysteries gets under your skin the most. Now we encounter a mystery that is less about history and more about a terrifying potential future. The Star Child. For millennia, powerful psychers near the Golden Throne have claimed to sense a new soul, a nascent consciousness gestating within the warp-fueled torment of the Emperor's dying body. This is the Star Child, the soul of the Emperor being reborn not as a man, but as an embryonic god. It is a prophecy with many, often contradictory interpretations. The Eldar, whose own race was devastated by the birth of a chaos god, see it as a human reflection of their death god, in need, a power born of a species' collective soul at the moment of its extinction. Some Harlequins believe it will only awaken when the last human in the galaxy dies. But there is a secret cabal, a splinter group so heretical they are hunted by the Inquisition itself, known as the Illuminati. They believe the Emperor cast off his own compassion in order to defeat Horus, and this fragment of his soul is the kernel of the Star Child. They do not believe in a random apocalyptic birth. They believe the Star Child requires willing, powerful sacrifice. To this end, the Illuminati scour the galaxy for the Sensei, the immortal biological children of the Emperor, sired throughout his long life before the Great Crusade. These individuals, often unaware of their own heritage, are psychic blanks, invisible to the warp's touch. The Illuminati's grand, horrifying plan is to gather these Sensei and sacrifice them to the Emperor at the moment of his final physical death. They believe this act will fuse their life force with the Emperor's soul, giving birth to a new, complete being, the Sensei Emperor, a god of order to finally counter the ruinous powers of chaos. Whether this new god would bring salvation or a new, unimaginable form of damnation is a question no one wants to answer. This theory is no longer canon, and that is what we want you to think. We have now reached a depth where we can perceive the scale of true cosmic horror. Here we find the Silent King's true purpose. For 60 million years, Zarek, the last ruler of the Necrons, was absent from the galaxy. His people believed he fled into the intergalactic void in a fit of cowardly exile, ashamed for having tricked his race into the living death of biotransference, trading their souls for immortal metal bodies. But the truth is far more terrifying. He didn't flee from the galaxy. He left to investigate a threat outside it. In the silent, black void between galaxies, Zarek encountered the Tyranids. Ancient Necron codices, written long before humanity existed, speak of the swarming nothing that eats the eater, a phrase no Necron will explain. Zarek realized that the hive fleets assaulting the galaxy were merely the scouts of a far greater swarm, an entity of such infinite hunger that it threatened to consume all biomass, leaving the Necrons with no hope of ever reversing their condition and returning to flesh. It was in this moment that the Silent King, ruler of an undying, soulless race, felt fear for the first time. His return to the galaxy was not an invasion. It was a desperate act of preservation. He began reactivating the great pylons of Noctilith, creating the vast anti-psyker dead zones known as the Pariah Nexus. This wasn't an attack on the living, it was quarantine. The pylon worlds are not strongholds, they are speed bumps, desperate fortifications against an approaching storm. The Silent King now works to unite the scattered and warring Necron dynasties, not to conquer the galaxy, but to fight the Tyranids. He needs humanity, and the other living races alive, not out of kindness, but as a buffer. Living beings, with their souls and connection to the warp, are the only true defense against what's coming. The undying Necrons are building a fence against the darkness, and they are putting all of us on the front line. At the crushing bottom, we find a place that defies physics and reason, buried deep within the red planet, the Librarius Omnis on Mars. It is not a library in any conventional sense. It's an upside-down archive carved into the planet's core, a place of flipping gravity, impossible architecture, and self-writing data slates that record events that have not yet happened. Only the Fabricator General of the Adeptus Mechanicus knows the true path to its deepest chambers. Down in these impossible archives, on shelves that groan under the weight of forbidden knowledge, are books bound not in leather, but in twitching neural tissue and still living flesh. The Mechanicus, in their most secret doctrines, claim this library predates not just the Imperium, but humanity's first cities on Terra. It is a repository of knowledge from a time before mankind looked to the stars. A single, recovered page from one of these texts reveals a terrifying truth at the heart of the machine cult. The Dragon of Mars, long considered a myth or a symbol of the Omnissiah, is not a legend. It is a containment protocol. The dragon is a shard of an actual cosmic entity, a Catan, the star god known as the Void Dragon. Billions of years ago, this being was one of the most powerful entities in existence. Recently, before the Emperor of Mankind united Terra under the same banner, he fought a shard of this entity. The Emperor of Mankind did not kill it. He defeated it on ancient Terra and imprisoned its conscious shard deep within Mars. The nascent cult Mechanicus that grew on Mars mistook its sleeping consciousness for their machine god. The entire Adeptus Mechanicus, unknowingly, worships a captive Xenos monster, and the protocol is the most terrifying part. If the Dragon of Mars ever stirs in its sleep, the Golden Throne is hardwired to detect it. The throne would instantly shut off the Emperor's life support, and the psychic energy of 1,000 dying psychers would ignite his soul into an impossibly bright psychic lure. This would be a final, desperate act to draw the dragon's attention away from Mars and back into its cage, sacrificing the Emperor to re-imprison a far older evil. Here, causality breaks and the laws of reality fray. We have reached the bottom of the iceberg, a secret so profound it is a threat to existence itself. This is the location of the Emperor's true name, not his titles, Master of Mankind, the All-Father, but his birth name, the one given to him thousands of years before he began his conquest of Terra. The Emperor himself once said that names hold power, that they are curses. A hidden subfaction of the Inquisition believes his name is more than a curse. It is a mimetic kill word of galactic-level potency. Their deepest lore suggests that to speak the name aloud would cause a catastrophic, instantaneous brain death in every psyker within light years. It could nullify demons, silence the whispers of the warp, or perhaps even kill the Emperor himself. The theory is that the Emperor's soul, as it currently exists on the Golden Throne, is a psychic cage, a dam holding back the full, untamed might of his being. His name is the key that unlocks that cage. For 10,000 years, the Ordo has undertaken a silent, genocidal crusade. They have systematically purged entire languages, burned libraries, and silenced cultures. Not for heresy, but to ensure that the specific combination of phonemes required to pronounce the Emperor's name are lost to history forever. In one of the few fragmented texts recovered by the Ordo Maledictus, the page describing this ends with just 3 terrifying words. He is awake. We started with the simple, clean absence of 2 Primarchs, and ended with a name that can unmake reality. We descended through layers of cosmic horror, from planet-eating starvations and gods born from unwilling sacrifice, to an undead king building a fence against the darkness between galaxies. And what have we learned? Every layer of this iceberg reveals the same singular truth. The Imperium doesn't rule the galaxy. It survives it, clinging to the edge of a cliff with bleeding fingers. The Emperor's light, the Astronomicon, isn't a beacon of hope. It's a flare, a final, desperate warning that something far worse is already here, just beyond the light's edge. These mysteries aren't just gaps in the lore left by forgetful scribes. They are deliberate, open wounds in the fabric of Imperial history, left to fester and bleed so that no one dares question the deeper rot beneath. They are the lies the Imperium tells itself to survive another day. But we keep digging. We keep asking the questions. Because in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, when blind faith is the law and ignorance is a virtue, curiosity is the last, and perhaps most profound, act of rebellion we have left. Thanks for watching.
The Council approves this video. Subscribe now!